Ammar, if you're on screen over there. Is he seeing me? In the next day and a half, we will be probing the different ways in which violence has affected cities afflicted by wars and upheavals, especially Aleppo, and exploring the historical and conceptual dimensions that have underpinned the broader relationship between warfare, violence, and urbanization. The destruction of cities has historically been an act of punishment, retribution, projection of absolute power, or a fulfillment of an oath, dream, or divine intervention. Modern time saw the magnification of violence against cities through enormous advances in the technologies and strategies of destruction and reconstruction, and the unintended, or at least I hope so, consequences of the modernist philosophical and legal reframing of the individual and the collective, as well as the rise of capital to the top of the modern state's metrics of self-evaluation and international standing. All along, the destruction of cities has been first and foremost an architectural and urban act of no less importance than the construction of cities, which gave us the critical term of urbicide, coined after the destructive streak of the grand New York urban vision of the 1960s. These developments have had tremendous effect, not only on the conceptualization of architecture and urbanism, but perhaps more importantly, on cities' identities and memory, on the mapping and definition of territories and states, and on the complex relationship between design, planning, reconstruction, and ethics. Any discussion of these issues is perforce predicated on the historical, political, and ideological trajectories that led to the destructions of cities as a consequence of war in the first place, and on the politics of identity that prepared the soil for it and fueled it, and then reaped the benefit of the ensuing reconstruction. The facile notions of recovery and rebuilding that depend on a secure and cohesive national history and geography and a national identity, which has already resolved the question of this particular history and geography, are hard to sustain as neutral, as both history and geography have been contested, reclaimed, and reconfigured as framers of competing and even hostile identities during and after many modern wars. Consequently, the process of reconstruction and the areas to be reconstructed have been divided, reappropriated, and reconfigured. And the unfortunate zones that fell out of the triumphant new identities boundaries have been ignored or downright destroyed in the hope of creating new realities on the ground. Alas, in today's Middle East, an entire regime of nation-states based on a European plan that dates back to the First World War is dissolving, and we are still unable to predict what will replace it other than the chaos reigning today. Our symposium featured both practicing architects and urbanists whose work has been reflective of destruction and reconstruction, as well as architectural and urban historians, conservationists, geographers, sociologists, and journalists who have theorized the conjunction between war, planning, destruction, rehabilitation, and reconstruction in various parts of the world, but in Syria in particular. By bringing together speakers from a broad range of disciplines who share the common concern with the ethical implications of reconstruction and the broader relationship between warfare, violence, and urbanization, our symposium seeks to address the following questions. How do violence and conflict not only destroy but constitute, design, and organize the built environment? How do we understand the urbanization of warfare in relation to urban theory and reconstruction practices? How do we consider the recent warfare in the Middle East, with a special focus on Aleppo, in relation to the built environment and the extent to which reconstruction processes are being weaponized as tools to displace, ethnically cleanse, and dispossess? And finally, what is an ethical reconstruction process? And how do we consider one for Aleppo and other Middle Eastern cities that have recently witnessed vast-scale destruction? At the end, I would like to thank the AKPIA students who are helping us today and tomorrow, and I'm not going to name names. And I would like also to thank Jose Luis Arguello, our able administrative assistant, who took care of all the logistics, but most of all, who designed the wonderful poster and program you have today. And finally, I would like to thank my partner, Dean Sharp, who was instrumental in initiating the idea for planning and organizing this symposium. I will now invite Alison Cuneo, AKPIA postdoctoral fellow for 2018-2019, and an archaeologist who is currently working on the destruction of cultural heritage in northern Iraq, to introduce the speakers of our first panel, Urbanization and Destruction. Alison.